Be careful when you're being delusional, because being delulu isn't always the solulu. And the reason for that is because one may find themselves entering a psychosis due to this. This is not advice. I'm not a guru. I'm not a thought leader, nothing. This is just me talking about what I think about those who really buy into the delulu is the solulu mentality. Some people get so lost into that it kind of destroys them a little bit. Now, look, you can be a little delulu. There's nothing wrong with believing in yourself. Okay, there's nothing wrong with waking up and then your first thought is to repeat positive affirmations to yourself. It's always good to set the tone of the day. But I notice like a lot of these people that are delulu online, and that's just like their entire personality, like they won't take feedback at all, no criticism at all. They tend to like fall in this rabbit hole of entitlement. I tend to stay away from those people, honestly, because there's always receipts. Like, okay, so someone can say all these great things about themselves, but does their life at that moment reflect that? No, I don't share that type of feedback at all because it's not my place to say. But that's enough for me to be like, well, maybe what you're doing needs a bit more grounding work, you know? And this is a lesson that I've learned in the last 10 years is just being like grateful. It's really hard sometimes to achieve that level of like gratitude. So much goes on. Our brains are like moving 1,000,000 miles per hour. Just be cautious of that. If there's something that you're just so grateful for or something that makes you happy, even if it's small, I think it's really important to just kind of pause and take note of that and really process that, you know? That's groundwork. That's great. You gotta be aware of things. And I think being grounded in your spirituality, whatever that looks like to you, can actually help open up more doors in your life because you tend to treat people better. Because when you're aware and you're alert and conscious about how others perceive you, I'm not saying you should care about what other people think about you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that when you look to the outer world and maybe you may find something that just makes you really happy and you kind of show excitement to them or to something or something, you know what I mean? Like that always kind of, I don't want to call it karma, but what you give is what you get type of deal. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's an easier way to live. And you can also do that and be kind to yourself and hype yourself up. You know, at the end of the day, the only person that's going to have your back is you. So you got to always remember too, like you can't walk around entitled and you can't walk around in life feeling entitled to other people's lives as well, because that's how it transpires. That comes off rude, actually. So you can be the Lulu all you want in your head, but if that manifests into you treating people like shit, you're not going to get what you want. I don't know how to tell you this. Nobody relates to that. Even people who have everything they want, they're not going to want to relate to that. If that makes sense. So this kind of ties back into another video that I made of this girl. I watched her on TikTok and she talks about how nobody deserves anything. You actually have to earn your way in a room. And she was referring to how one should act in someone else's home. And the whole video is about like proper etiquette. And it's really funny and you should check it out. But the principle of it all remains, okay? That message is exactly what I'm talking about here. It's you need to treat people well or as best as you can. You don't need to kiss ass to them. You don't need to bow down to them. You don't even have to compromise yourself, your positive affirmations. But you do need to understand how to exist in this world that you're sharing with other people. You get what I'm saying? Look at the state of the world we're in. It's so fucked up, okay? There's conflicts left and right. Let's say you're in a war zone. How far do you think deluluness will take you in that war zone? It's really hard. It's really hard to remain delulu. You don't get to choose where you are in the world. You don't get to choose your circumstances sometimes. That's out of your hands. To a degree, I think it's out of all of our hands, okay? There are people that run this world, and it's been like that since the beginning of time. And that's just the truth. So the best we can do is understand how to move around this world to our best ability, okay? And part of that is being aware of how we are perceived. So for me, you know, on the internet. I don't really have a niche on my TikTok. Usually my idea is like right on the fly. I'm like, oh, I have an idea. So I'll take my camera, record, and then I'm yapping. Sometimes the video does well, other times it doesn't. Sometimes I have viral moments. You know what I'm saying? Like I've had several videos that have had more than 50, 60, 100,000 views, lots of engagement. It's not all the time, but I do have more videos that have like 500 views. But for me, 500 is like the equivalent of someone who gets like 3 million views on their video. Like, wow, 500 people noticed me? That's crazy. And I was just speaking on the top of my dome. Like, so that makes me happy. That's enough for me personally. And I've made great connections through just doing that. So it's not about numbers, it's about who it's connecting to and what type of friendships I can form. And as far as me being DELULU, I mean, again, I present myself one way on the internet, but in person, I think I'm a bit more reserved. I'm not going to sit and just vomit my thoughts out to somebody I don't know, because that's weird. I think that's kind of weird. Some people are more comfortable doing that than others, but I don't like overwhelming people. Never really been my vibe. Unless I trust them or I'm good friends with these people, then, and that takes a while to build. But I digress. The point is, in my real world, I like to be aware of my surroundings, not too much to the point where it consumes me, and not in a way where I care about what other people think about me, but just enough for me to know that at least I was polite on this given day. Now, I'm human. Sometimes I pop off. I haven't in a really long time, but if I come across someone who's rude or I feel wronged, like I'm human, especially with the Aries stellium taking place right now. It's in the air. We can all feel it. It's some people are just short-tempered at this very moment. But generally speaking, I like to be cool and calm as best as I can. And that's just because I'm aware there's an outside world and I share the space with other people. So that's how I move. As far as my DELULU-ness, I kind of keep that to myself. Okay, there's a journal for a reason. I try to be kind to myself as best as I can. So self-care. I don't really like this term self-care. I feel like it's necessary to take care of yourself because the way you show up for yourself is going to be the way you show up for others. And so that goes beyond washing your face, brushing your teeth, doing your bed. That's also stress management. Honestly, that's one of the most important things because I know some smelly people that really manage their stress quite well. So if you can manage that stress and also take care of yourself, I think life is going to be a bit easier for you to navigate. And that's part of just doing what's necessary, but we call it self-care. For me, it's really hard to manage my stress. I've been dealing with losing my hair a lot. It shows up in my hair. It just falls out in clumps. I reached a point where like it was bad. So about 4 months ago, I did start using solution to deal with that. I'm gonna be 34 this month, and I think I'm a little too young to be dealing with this bullshit. The stress that's resulting in premature aging, in my opinion. I started taking up a lot of journaling. I just feel like that's a great way to manage stress. It's a small little tweak in my life, but it's helped a lot. And sometimes it's, in my opinion, better than therapy because I'm just really letting it out with zero judgment as opposed to speaking to a stranger. I have a thing with like talking about my past too much and fixating on my past. I think about my past and my childhood. It wasn't that traumatic, to be honest. Yeah, I was dealing with stress at home, but I had great parents and I'm grateful for everything they've done. And they weren't perfect, but it's not like that bled into my adult life either. I think the only thing that bled into my adult life that I'm actually working on because of, I wouldn't call it childhood trauma either. I don't like that label, but I have a tendency to be very polite when I don't need to be. I know it sounds crazy. Like I'm just overtly, oh my God, thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate you. And that kind of comes off a little extra for some people. And I'm aware of that because sometimes like I'll deal with that myself and I'm just like, this is too much praise. It's fine. It's fine. So I'm working on just limiting that. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to incorporate that at all. I just want to kind of tone it down and maybe keep it at, thank you. instead of like, you're the best, you know? Because, it's something my mom told me to do as a kid. Like, you always need to praise people up. And, she's North African. I don't know if it's cultural, I have no idea. But in Arabic, people speak differently. It's very common for them to be like, oh, bless your life and your future. And that's just them casually speaking. So for me, I kind of have a habit of translating that into English, and people don't react well to it. I don't know, they think it's extra. So that's something I'm kind of working on and trying to tone down a bit when it comes to certain people. They're not receptive to that type of praise, which for me isn't really praise. It's just casually speaking and showing gratitude. I don't know, being polite. So anyway, that's like the only thing I could think of my childhood. And every therapist I've ever had want to go over this fucking topic. And I get it, some people aren't aware of your past and they want to start with your childhood, but most of my trauma really started in my 20s when my parents weren't even in the picture. I moved to a different state and they weren't there. Doing my thing, I was trying to be an adult in this world. And that's when everything really started for me. Yeah, in my experience, therapists kind of, disregard that. And that's why therapy is just a really annoying process for me. And it's not a one size fits all. So you really have to find that person, that professional that's on your level. And I've just had issues dealing with that. So journaling is great for me. People who I trust, they're great for me. They're good for my health, my mental health. Taking care of myself. Being a little delusional, but really just being kind to yourself and, hyping yourself up, but also understanding how to navigate the world accordingly. I'm done yapping for today. I think this video is long enough. Yeah, be careful when you're too delulu to the point where you find yourself in an area of like entering psychosis. You don't want to get that far. You need to understand that there's trees out there, people, and there are things that are real you can touch, and not people, but trees, the grass, and try to connect with what's real as well. I think that would really help. It's helped me. So anyway,